Hello, and welcome to this eCampus News webinar on delivering high-quality teaching and learning with technology. My name is Karen Barrick, and I will be moderating this event. I'm a freelance education marketing consultant and webinar producer with eCampus News, and I'm excited to have you join us for what should be a very informative session. Today's webinar is sponsored by Blackboard, the leading provider of learner success-focused technology solutions and services around the world. Before I introduce our presenter, I'd like to take a minute to go over some features of the platform that we're using for this webinar. Today's events will be recorded, so you don't have to worry about missing a thing. Within a few days, you'll receive an email message that contains a link to the recorded webinar along with a PDF of the slides. You can submit questions at any time during the presentation by clicking on the purple Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, then typing your question into the pop-up box and hitting Submit. We'll save those questions for the Q&A session with our presenter scheduled for the end of the webinar. We also have a group chat function that you can launch by clicking on the blue chat button at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to use this feature to chat among yourselves or to contact someone from the eCampus News team if you have a technical question. But please don't use this feature to ask questions of our speaker. If you have a question for the speaker, you can use the Q&A box that I just mentioned. If you find that you're having a hard time reading the text on the slides, you can enlarge that portion of your screen by clicking on the box in the upper right-hand corner of the slide window. Or you can click on the double arrows for a full screen view of the slide presentation. Finally, we encourage you to join the back-channel conversation on Twitter by referring to the Twitter handle #, the @ Blackboard, and the hashtag ECNWebinar in your tweets. Blackboard has made a few resources available for you to access as well, and you can find the link to those materials in the additional resources box on the left side of your screen. Now with these housekeeping items out of the way, let's get started with our presentation. Our main speaker today is Angela Robbins, Customer Success Manager at Blackboard. Angela joined the Blackboard team 2 years ago, and prior to that, she spent over 18 years in higher education and consulting, where she designed and developed curriculum for traditional, blended, and online learning environments, while also providing faculty teaching skills development training in the colleges of education, medicine, pharmacy, and business. She holds a Master of Education in Instructional Design for Online Learning and a Master of Science in Education in Curriculum and Instruction. And this summer, Angela will be defending her dissertation for her PhD in Instructional Design for Online Learning. At this time, I'm going to turn things over to Angela.
Thank you so much, Karen, and welcome to today's session where we'll be discussing how to deliver high-quality teaching and learning with technology. As Karen has noted, my name is Angela Robbins, and along with my colleagues Amanda, Coleman, and Sally from Blackboard, we are very honored to have all of you join us for today's presentation. As our host has indicated and explained, we will be moving through the content of the session without breaks for questions. However, my team will be monitoring the comment box below, noted as the Q&A section. So if you'd like to ask any questions about a particular part of today's presentation, at the end of the session, we will address all of your questions in the Q&A. So please do not be afraid to share your thoughts, ideas, or questions. And if we do not have the formal responses for you in today's forum, we will be sure to get back in contact with you immediately following this event. So now on to our main topics of today. In this session, we will be discussing how institutions are delivering high-quality teaching and learning with technology in today's ever-growing and evolving world of education. We will also focus on what online education is today, what the growth and development of online programs has been, and where we are headed. And we'll also look at the focus on we'll also focus on the importance of designing and developing a high-quality faculty teaching skills development program that is unique to a particular environment, which also is sustainable for those who are struggling to really employ the proper resources and support personnel to make these types of programs a reality in your institutions. And we'll also look at Blackboard's digital teaching and learning series and how we can partner with you and your institutions to help develop and create a more sustainable, high-quality digital teaching and learning program to help you and your faculty and staff become more proficient and certified as e-learning specialists for the digital learning environment. So with that, let's get started with the first topic of this session, which is online education today. When looking at the growth of online programs, what we do know is that according to Allen and Seaman, in the fall of 2017, 27% of higher ed enrollments were online. And in that same year, we also knew that 6 million students were taking at least one online course. In addition, 76% of colleges and universities reported an increase in demand for online courses and programs. As a result, 73% of higher ed institutions were looking for a way to grow new online programs to really increase their overall student enrollment. So speeding forward to present day, similar growth rates are really expected to continue according to Inside Higher Ed. And as a result, we're really trying to ensure that instructors and learners have true success in their course rooms. And of all students taking at least one class, almost half, which is 48%, are taking only online classes. So knowing this, institutions are now having to truly reevaluate how they're designing and delivering curriculum. And looking at the teaching and pedagogy, it's no longer a one-size-fits-all approach, and the expectations and preferred learning styles of the students really often dictate what we deliver in the curriculum. So creating high-quality digital teaching and learning curriculum that is both interactive and engaging for students is crucial to the future state of how we develop learning, teaching and learning in our institutions. The problem most environments are facing is how to properly train and educate faculty to keep up with this movement. So with the ultimate goal of driving student enrollment, institutions must create digital teaching and learning environments that promote a feeling of community, engagement, inclusiveness, innovation, and quality. Sounds simple, right? Well, for many of us who have worked in the battlegrounds of instructional design or curriculum development and technology, we know this is almost impossible if we don't have the proper tools and resources, support, and/or training to help assist the faculty and staff and students with the design and development for creating an effective digital teaching and learning space. Oftentimes, we find ourselves piecemealing programs and support together to make it work because we figure, something's better than nothing. However, in our heart of hearts, we always feel like something is consistently let out, or we're letting something slip through the cracks, or letting someone down. And balancing this exponential growth of our online programs with the knowledge that we still have to deliver high-quality curriculum programs, regardless if we have an increase in our resources, we must find a solution that's sustainable and feasible for all. As online education becomes mainstream, the question of quality emerges as a central concern. The question is no longer, can we teach online? It is now, how do we teach online well? How can we deliver instruction just as effectively, if not more effectively, than face-to-face? In fact, faculty are the linchpin in online education success. According to the research, instructor readiness is one of the top 3 factors contributing to a successful implementation of digital learning. And alternatively, the lack of readiness is the #1 barrier hindering the successful implementation of online education. So institutions are responding to the call to support faculty and increase their readiness to teach online. And academic leaders are asking the question, how can we support online faculty? How do we promote digital learning and learning success? And now more than ever, there's a need for coordinated, systematic professional development efforts at the post-secondary level. And despite the criticality of instructor readiness, faculty are woefully under-supported. For instance, less than 25% of colleges and universities offer online courses or online programs, or that offer online courses or online programs, offer development opportunities for instructors who are teaching online. The majority of the efforts in faculty professional development have largely been unproductive since they're often conducted ad hoc and are not strategic and remain unrelated to a broader plan of intentional institutional change. In addition, with the ongoing changes to technology and learning management systems, it's hard for institutions to create training programs that are sustainable and provide the support to maintain training content and tools for quality assurance. making faculty training and development extremely hard to develop and balance across the institutional levels. In a traditional environment, faculty teaching skills development is essential to any institution, as many faculty are trained in their content or subject matter, but not in the best practices and pedagogies of teaching and learning. In a digital learning environment, whether it be for blended, hybrid, or an online setting, it's even more critical to have faculty teaching skill development programs, as not only do these faculty need to understand the teaching and learning processes, but also the ins and outs of working in a digital teaching environment. This would include, but not be limited to, understanding the digital teaching and learning from a technical and theoretical perspective, as well as understand how to design and develop for an online learning environment. A critical component in the success of an online education program hinges really on a faculty or instructor's readiness to teach online. Online education has really created a specific context for teaching and learning over the years. This context calls for really a refined set of skills and competencies that online instructors must possess in order to be successful. To succeed in the online classroom, faculty must possess, among other things, a pedagogical framework, a facilitative knowledge, instructional, social, managerial, assessment, and technical competencies. Faculty development in digital teaching and learning leads to academic success. When we have coordinated systematic professional development efforts at the post-secondary level, and they're related to improved student learning outcomes, including higher retention and graduation rates, we have better learning success. And we know that the research further indicates that high-quality teaching is a key factor in college persistence. When effective teaching is paired with these tools and resources, it also helps improve students' critical thinking and their students' persistence. We also know that when faculty improve their teaching, students learn more, and their performance on coursework naturally improves. So now, I know this is the part of the presentation where you're thinking, yes, we do that in our institution, or you're thinking, well, I offer it and no one comes. Well, guess what? You're not alone. Having been a director of a Center for Instructional Design and a developer of online programs, I can assure I have had those same thoughts. Faculty are creatures of habit. There are many personalities, but many of the same behaviors. Some feel like they can always go at it alone. Some think they don't need to conform to new ideas. Some just don't want your help, while others are begging, borrowing, and stealing from anyone to make their courses unique and refreshing for the students so they can lead to better learning outcomes. Whatever scenario you might fall in, please note, I'm validating right now that you are totally normal. All instructional designers, technologists, developers, administrators, and trainers deal with one or more of these personalities on a regular basis. Once we overcome these personalities of the faculty we work with, we're often faced with a long list of other challenges that make it even more difficult to deliver training. These include, but are not limited to, having release time to make training a priority for faculty, providing or preventing participants from underestimating the quality of support being provided, motivating that faculty member who is okay with the status quo, or moving faculty outside their comfort zone to try something new or innovative, differentiating levels of training content for a wide variety of audience members, for instance, those who are at the introductory or intermediate or advanced level, making sure you're offering a variety of sessions, keeping content up to date and current as well as sustainable, having time to update content prior to each session, developing educators by maintaining their involvement, also having the lack of ID or instructional design or instructional technology or the bandwidth to train faculty. Faculty buy-in and the department buy-in is always a challenge. If you don't have the support of your administration, it's very hard to get participation. Also, the challenge to create and maintain high-quality content and training materials, in addition to marketing those programs to entice faculty to participate in the training. And also having a strategy to build momentum for the program or incentivize faculty to participate. The digital teaching and learning series that we've created at Blackboard has a certification, so recognition of accomplishment by finishing the program is always a great way to incentivize instructors, whereas some other institutions have the luxury of providing stipends for faculty. However, we know in the real world, most people don't have that luxury or the budget to do something like that. Whatever your challenge might be, without support, manpower, time, and commitment from others, it is really hard to stay focused on your end goal. Online educators differ greatly from a traditional educator. The faculty must be able to differentiate between the two in order to be effective in the digital learning environment. And in this next session, we'll discover more in depth the role of the online educator. A teacher in the online environment makes a paradigm shift in how they interact with their students in the teaching and learning environment. The online educator moves from a more passive approach to a more interactive and collaborative approach, where the faculty member and student co-create the learning experience. They are moving from the sage on the stage to the guide by their side approach. And with this shift, the online instructor must focus on multiple facets of the learning environment at a time, versus a more top-down approach that they would normally do in a traditional learning environment. The roles of an online educator include pedagogy. The faculty member must take a learner-centered approach, focusing on teaching and learning, while also providing effective feedback that is student-specific and targeted to improve student learning outcomes. They also have a social context, where they must engage and collaborate in a learning and community model to build and encourage interaction and support for the students, whether that be student to student, student to faculty, etc. They also play a managerial role, where they have an obligation to manage the course content, the tools, the interactions, including the design, the delivery, assessment, and revision process of the curriculum. And then finally, a technical role, where they assist students with the required and essential technology. So the time it takes to develop and support a digital learning environment is a lot more time-intensive than a traditional environment. However, the impact on student retention and success often outweighs the hardships that faculty face. Faculty training initiatives for online readiness have really gained momentum in the recent years. Institutions are responding to the growth of online programs, and they're seeking out ways to support faculty. While faculty teaching centers are committed to supporting faculty, they often lack the staff, time, skills, or resources required to do so. At Blackboard, we understand the dilemmas our partners are facing on a daily basis. Therefore, we've created a digital teaching and learning series that offers a practical and research-based solution. It's customized to meet your particular needs. The series was established on best practices and effective teaching strategies that's conducive to the direct application of pedagogy and technology. The digital teaching and learning series helps build instructors' competencies in quality online teaching and helps institutions view faculty development as a necessity, not a nicety. Blackboard's digital teaching and learning series was launched in 2017 and is being delivered currently worldwide. To date, we have over 700 participants that have been certified in some part of the program. The inspiration for the development of this series was driven by institutions that have struggled to foster learner engagement with educational technology. What was needed in these institutions were educators who could inspire and develop learner digital literacy, and educational professionals who had the skills and pedagogical knowledge to constantly deliver a high-quality learning experience to the future leaders of tomorrow. And to set the standards of the quality, the teaching excellence, and a better student learning experience, Blackboard's digital teaching and learning series was designed to meet the educational challenges of student success while also preparing educators to meet the needs of the 21st century student. By developing a community of e-teachers who are trained to benchmark standards, Blackboard can partner with institutions to help creating an environment of teacher leaders that are confident and consistent in their learning and teaching approaches. They're 21st century ready to adopt and apply the latest learning technologies to instruction and deliver quality and consistent teaching and learning pedagogy to drive technology integration and adoption. And overall, they're able to ensure an institutional return on their technology investment within the curriculum. While the digital teaching and learning curriculum is very formalized in its approach, it's also very flexible in its design. Let's take a look. The digital teaching and learning series is designed as 3 individual intensive courses. It's also delivered in a blended, hybrid, or fully online model, depending on what you choose for your institution. The digital teaching and learning series is made up of 3 courses, the first being the fundamentals of digital teaching and learning, the second, designing for digital teaching and learning, the third, excellence in digital teaching and learning. The first course, the fundamentals, is aimed at providing faculty with the foundation concepts that support digital teaching and learning. It does not require any specific technology platform, and is what we call an agnostic platform design. The second, designing for digital teaching and learning, is different from the fundamentals and excellence course. It is focused on the learning technology, specifically the LMS, and it covers a wide variety of LMSs such as Blackboard Learn, Ultra, and the Open LMS, now also known as Moodle, or previously known as Moodle. And from a virtual classroom viewpoint, also Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. And finally, the third course, Excellence. This course challenges faculty with the goal of creating exemplary courses. For several years, Blackboard has sponsored the Exemplary Course Program, extending course design and virtual classroom engagement to incorporate aspects of online teaching and learning, such as personalized learning, the flipped classroom, and gamification. This course really helps faculty represent real challenges to aspiring e-teachers. As with fundamentals, this course is also platform agnostic. So each of these 3 courses has 2 dimensions. The first dimension is the teaching and learning curriculum, and the second is an examination. If a participant is successful in their examination at the end of each course, they're awarded a certificate by Blackboard. The certificate as follows. The first course, they receive a participant becomes an associate for designing. The first course, the certificate that they receive is the fundamentals, they become a Blackboard certified associate. After completing the second course, they become a Blackboard certified practitioner. And then the third course, they become a Blackboard certified specialist. At the end of all 3 courses, if they were to complete all 3 courses, they become a Blackboard certified expert. All 3 certificates can be done, or you can choose to just do 1 or 2 of the programs. You do not have to do all 3 programs, and you can choose the order of the fundamentals and designing. So for example, if you want to do the designing first and then the fundamentals second, you can choose the order. On this slide, you'll find an overview of the curriculum. So for example, in the digital teaching and learning, the fundamentals course, you'll see that it covers the basics of design pedagogy and collaborative learning, how to integrate multimedia into the classroom, and the basics of evaluation and reflective practice in the course room. The second of the courses is designing for digital teaching and learning. And here, this is, again, platform specific. It goes through the basics of designing a course, so how to create and use the engagement tools, create a structure and overview of your course, adding content, using retention tools, collaboration tools, how to share and store content within your course. So basically, the intro and getting started in your course to intermediate and advanced skills. And then the third course is the excellence in digital teaching and learning, where you become more of an exemplary course builder. And so you see a lot more of the advanced teaching and learning skills and more innovations in course design. And you also cover more advanced topics such as differentiation in the course room, advanced web and video conferencing, gamification, how to create online communities, and all the elements of an exemplary course. Once enrolled in the curriculum, each participant is given access to a workbook this is a fully online for distance asynchronous an asynchronous opportunity where participants can be they can either do this through a blended or a face-to-face. They can choose to do this through blended or a face-to-face opportunity. The content is authored by Blackboard's consulting team of educational professionals, and each consists of up-to-date learning content as well as practical activities. Along with the workbook, there is an online course that contains additional activities and is the host environment for synchronous distance activities as well, such as communication and collaboration. If a participant is completing Designing for Digital Teaching and Learning, they also get access to their own environment where they'll have full editing capability. And finally, all of the accredited course facilitators have teaching materials produced by Blackboard Consulting that are also additional for the workbook. Once you've chosen which program your institution would like to adopt, it would then be time to choose your delivery modality. You have 3 choices, and you get to choose your own style according to your institution's preferences. You have the synchronous option where you could do face-to-face delivery, a remote or blended opportunity. And again, this is working with Blackboard's consulting team where the courses would be delivered by a Blackboard consultant. You have an asynchronous option where it's facilitated online. And then we also have a licensed modality where it's licensed by an institution for delivery and hosted by Blackboard. On the following slide, you'll see that we have some upcoming taster sessions where you can preview the experience and the content that your participants at your institution would go through in a sample, or you could actually sample a module for each of the curriculums so you can get an idea of what the offerings would be like. And this will also be shared in the resources section of this webinar. At this time, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us, and we'd also like to open it up for some questions and comments.
Thank you, Angela.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. As a reminder, if you have a question for the speaker, please use the Q&A box. Okay. First one. How does the trend of online teaching in engineering compare to other non-engineering disciplines?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Coleman Cooper. I'm the Senior Director of Consulting Services for North America. Thank you all for being here and for your questions. I'll take a little part of this, and Angela, you may want to follow up from my comments, but I think, as you can guess, I assume as you would imagine, there aren't as many engineering degrees online yet as the typical online courses. And I think, but with that said, I would say that engineering and any other professional degree programs oftentimes, depending on your institution, may have a lot of instructors that are professors that are more subject matter experts and maybe were not necessarily, never went through the an education program where they were actually taught how to teach online or what the differences are in online. And so I think that anytime you look at the professional degree programs, you're going to see that oftentimes that's an area that's not necessarily really built out in terms of the professional development for faculty. But I would say, Angela, you may have a little bit additional insight that you want to comment on in terms of the differences between engineering degree programs and non-engineering degree programs.
So I would say, I think the design and the pedagogy is very different depending on discipline. So I've taught in a variety of settings, and I've designed curriculum for a variety of settings. And, I'm a firm believer that, pairing with the subject matter experts is very important, because the way you would teach a medical student versus an engineering student versus a business student is completely different. And so, however, you can adapt the different types of learning and be creative to deliver your content. It just takes a little more creativity. And so this, you know, whether you're using case-based instruction or, you know, evidence-based research or whatever, you know, you can still use those same design principles. It's just a matter of learning those strategies and those tools, and then two, how to pair that technology with that pedagogy. And so, you know, I'm a firm believer that the pedagogy drives the technology and not the other way around. But again, without the proper training and the mentoring for those subject matter experts, it makes it very difficult to design an effective environment, even for a hybrid, blended, or face-to-face course room. You know, especially with the flipped classroom approach where, you know, we're front-loading curriculum so that we can have more meaningful experiences when we do have class time with them. We have to make sure that we're teaching instructors how to do that effectively, especially when we're talking about contact hours, what a contact hour feels like, because, you know, 1 hour of class, you know, generally means 3 to 4 hours of work time outside of class, but a beginning teacher may not realize that or understand that. And so when you're planning your curriculum, you have to take those things into consideration. And so we can really overload students. So, you know, those are the type of things that this curriculum really addresses. And so I think that's important that we really consider that as we work with our faculty.
Great, thank you. Next question. What do you consider a basic template that every online program should have?
I can take this one, Coleman, if you would like. So I'm a firm believer that there has to be consistency and structure throughout a program. I know standardization is a bad word in a lot of institutions. However, you know, I designed a nationally ranked online program for a number of years. And I truly believe part of the success of that program was standardization. You know, you want to take the thought process out of navigating a course. And so when students can move through a program and know where things are, then they can just jump right in and be focused on the content and the curriculum of the course. And so having a start here menu, knowing where their modules are, understanding where, you know, every module has, you know, an overview, learning objectives, a task list, making sure that content is in the order of that task list. Those are really essential elements because then we're not focused on how to, you know, go through that course. We're focused on what content's in that course. And that's really essential. And so that's, you know, again, with the digital teaching and learning series, that's what we really focus on is the best practices and design elements of designing course modules. And really what the benefits of creating modules are for the learner and their success.
Thank you. Can you please elaborate on the differences between blended and hybrid courses?
Yeah, so really a blended and a hybrid course are generally one and the same. I think, you know, whether it's blended, hybrid, flipped, you know, they're generally the same in the sense that there's always an online component and some type of face-to-face component. And so whether that's, you know, you meet in class 1 day a week and 2 sessions online or, you know, asynchronously, there's always an online and a face-to-face component.
Thank you. Going back to the certifications, there's a question that came in. How much faculty time does it take to complete each of the certifications?
Would you like me to take that one, Angela? Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. Great. So, it depends a little bit on the way that it's delivered. If it's going to be delivered in a face-to-face or face-to-face and / remote way, or if it's asynchronous. But for the most part, we can average around 40 hours per course for the certifications for each one. And that's because the courses are very, very rich in format and in the content. And again, it depends on the delivery mode that you take.
Okay, Thank you. Going back to the blended and online courses question, how would you recommend introducing blended and online courses among faculty across disciplines?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Sure. How would you recommend introducing blended and online courses among faculty across disciplines?
Sure. So I think you're talking about two very different things. So online, I think you would have almost two different templates there, and two very different purposes. So an online is strictly 100% online, where blended is sometimes 50-50, 25-75. So I think you're definitely talking to two different audiences. And if blended is not done correctly, it can be a mess. And so you have to really define some standards to deliver blended learning. Again, talking about contact hours, we at a university that I was at, we had some faculty that wanted to jump in and do it right away, and they learned a lot of mistakes in that first year because they didn't address the contact hours. And you have to realize these students are in 3 to 5 other classes, and balancing workload. Because if they're in class with you for 4 hours, and then you expect them to also do 20 hours of work outside of that class, that's a lot of work for a 3-credit-hour course. And then looking at the types of activities and the type of quality work you want to do with the students. And so there's a lot of research that's involved in just putting your class or creating a blended learning course. And so, too, understanding how to create that engagement and the interaction and what qualifies as a meaningful interaction and so on. And 2, it's not just about posting lectures and doing multiple choice and true-false questions. You have to have some interaction and engagement. So helping faculty understand the differences and that sort of thing is really important. And then 2, with an online course, that's completely online. And so how are you going to facilitate and give them the same experience they would have in class while also covering the standards and the principles, and be able to benchmark those things, and to provide that same quality of instruction online. And you have to have the tools and the resources to be able to do that. So you have to really train the faculty.
Another question goes back to certification. Is the certification only offered via the partner university, or can this be completed by individuals?
I can take that one, Angela. We do not at this point have an offering to individuals, but we are looking at that. So that's certainly something that we can do in the future.
Thank you. This one is specific to STEM or science courses. How would you blend basic chemistry or biology lab courses with online?
Sorry, Angela, I was thinking that would be one for you.
Yeah, so I think, you do it just like you would any other class. I remember I developed an online cosmetic science program and a drug delivery program. And, there was a major lab component to the cosmetic science, and you're dealing with senses at that point, smelling and hearing. And we would mail out lab kits to go with the course. And so you just have to get very creative because you're now using 4D methods, and so you have to involve the senses. And so, again, looking at the types of activities, you just have to get creative in your approaches and think through, how would I create that in an online environment, and, knowing what I do in a traditional learning environment, how could I make that happen? With multimedia today, as simple as using your iPhone, the camera quality is amazing on that, but, demonstrating labs, having the students complete labs and record those and upload those for assessment, there's so many opportunities. And I would say you actually get a more intimate look at what the students are able to produce in an online environment sometimes than you do in a face-to-face, because you only have so much time with the students. So I honestly, I don't know that it's any more difficult to do in an online environment. It takes a little more creative thought, but I think it can be done and done just as well.
Thank you. I have a two-part question here. I'm going to give you the first part. What do you consider best practices for interaction?
Yeah, so I really enjoy, having worked in the medicine field and pharmacy, and then also in the College of Business, I use a lot of case-based discussions, evidence-based medicine, things like that. So using the discussion board tool, even video, feedback, things like that, anything to get the students involved with each other and with the faculty member. I love giving video feedback as an online instructor. One of the things, it was hard for me to go online because I am such a people person, and I didn't want to lose that interaction with my students. So on-demand video was a huge thing for me when that integration came around, because I am anybody that knows me, I'm always smiling. And so for me, delivering bad news is always a hard thing when I'm texting someone or emailing them or putting comments on paper. I didn't want my students to be discouraged. And so being able to, pop a video into a comment box so that they could get video feedback from me was such a great thing, because I felt like I could still mentor them and give them feedback that was encouraging but also constructive. And so I honestly enjoy that better than I did in the traditional classroom, because I never knew how my comments were being interpreted in written form. And so to me, there's just so many opportunities in the digital environment to create a deeper and more, strategic relationship with my students that's personalized than I ever could in a face-to-face classroom.
And on a second part to that question, if you do have an online or a hybrid course, do you make the interactions mandatory at that point?
So I think in a blended course room, absolutely, because chances are they're still required to be in class at least 25 to 50% of the time. So that's definitely mandatory. And then I know there's some instructors when it's online, they'll still use some collaborative tools like Collaborate Ultra or other video conferencing tools to meet outside. Maybe they're using group time, so their groups will meet in Collaborate Ultra to do some webinars or class meetings or group meetings. And so because space is limited on a lot of our campuses, web conferencing has really created an outlet for our faculty to be able to do more small group discussions and things like that. In a face-to-face classroom, there's not a lot of mandatory, live sessions or synchronous sessions. However, I would argue that a lot of people still use web conferencing to do office hours, generally once a week, or maybe having webinars such as this, or using it for students to meet together, or providing remediation sessions and things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities to meet, but generally in the online session, the luxury of it is that it's meant for students to be able to do it on their own at their own time frame. So usually you wouldn't see structured meeting time.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the general questions was a lot of the educators want to learn to be better online teachers and builders. Oftentimes there's very little support at their institutions for building or innovating. What would be your top 3 recommendations that they should do to start on that path?
Yeah. So, you know, I know if you are at an institution where there is not a faculty development program or instructional designers, you know, there are, well, Blackboard, for instance, we have a team, we have a consulting team of instructional designers that, you know, we've done work with other universities, so we can pair with you. There are a lot of opportunities out there. There's other organizations that you can pair with. We have a Blackboard community site that's amazing. If you go to community.blackboard.com, there is an exemplary program that you can join for free, and we walk you through the process of creating exemplary courses. I highly recommend that you get involved with that community. They talk about best practices. We have our BIT seminars every week, where we have people from around the world, even globally, presenting on best practices and design elements of creating quality delivery components of online courses. And they'll share anything from creating a more accessible course to creating a quality online course. And that's a free community that you can get involved with. And they have blogs, they have user groups, things like that. So, you know, if you are stuck and you don't know what to do, or you want to share ideas, you can definitely go to our community and join those free sessions. There's also some examples of exemplary courses that you can actually download and look at. So if you're curious to see what an exemplary course looks like, you can join. And I think in our resources over here, Coleman, do we include the community for folks?
I'm not sure if we do. We can look at that afterwards.
Okay. And did you have anything to add there, Coleman?
No, I think that was perfect. I just wanted to comment one other thing about kind of the question in general. There's some folks that maybe don't use Blackboard, or curious if the series was just for Blackboard customers. And I just wanted to say, you know, it's really, the LMS is really just the vehicle that we use where the learning occurs, right? And so the series that we've developed is really doesn't matter what LMS it is. I mean, obviously we would use Blackboard as part of, as the vehicle. But really, you know, it's really for any faculty member trying to help ensure that their course is, you know, effective, and that they're teaching effectively using this different medium. So it doesn't really matter what LMS you're using.
Agreed. And you're welcome to join our community. Even if you're not a Blackboard customer, we have some great individuals from around the world that are, you know, glad to share their best practices and are looking for people to be involved. So we encourage you to join.
Thank you. I do have a question that has come in about gamification. Which specific challenges does gamification face regarding students that require accommodation?
Hey, Coleman, do you want to take this one?
Wow, that's a good question. And I think, and we do have, I think that there are tools that, you know, Blackboard has that can help with that, actually services that Blackboard helps with that. But I think obviously gamification is going to be more challenging as it relates to accommodation. I think, you know, it's a pretty generic question, meaning general, because it's a loaded question. But I think that you know, we have folks on our staff that can help guide an institution through what that might look like depending on what the gamification is. But I think it's a great question in general, because it is something that we are faced with, trying to ensure that our courses are more engaging and helping increase that learning and the different learning styles. But you're right, there are so many different considerations that need to be made to ensure that it's accessible to everyone, and not just people with disabilities, but, you know, everybody that has different learning styles as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, we have tools like Blackboard Ally that can help you with creating accessible content, and it will scan even your web pages. It can help you make your content accessible. But again, you know, it just really depends on the format of your product that you're using. I know a lot of third-party tools or publisher content generally will come accessible nowadays. Already they're designed with that in mind. But again, it is something we're going to have to consider more and more as we're implementing those things in our courses. But yeah, we have experts at Blackboard that are, that's what they do. And so we're more than happy to get you in contact with somebody if that's an area of your interest. So we'd be happy to do that for you.
Thank you. What are some best practices when it comes to pedagogy in the online environment?
So again, you know, I think when designing online programs or even, you know, just designing courses in general, I always start with a template. And I think most universities are at that point in their development. A lot of times I'll see two types of templates, an online course template and a traditional template for those who are just teaching in the regular environment, like a traditional course room. And clearly, you know, making sure that you've trained the faculty on the LMS to make sure that they know how to edit those templates. And also, you know, training faculty enough to be productive, you know. So, and then two, having, I think, having some standards in place to help faculty, you know, because nowadays students are dictating what they expect from us. You know, every student wants to see a course syllabus online. They want to know that we're using the grade book. So having those minimums in place to encourage faculty to use the system and making sure that faculty are at least competent in those few key areas that we want to encourage them to use those particular tools. And then two, I think it's important to have some type of faculty development program in place, whether that's a teaching skills, a lunch and learn program, something where we can show some innovation through those tools. So having some monthly topics that would maybe drive some of that innovation that are just in time. So, you know, whether you know, it's October and you know grades are going to be due, so how to submit your grades within the LMS to the registrar's office, or, you know, it's the start of the term, how do you engage your students through the course using discussion boards, or how to stay in contact with your students using the announcement tool and sending course emails and things like that. So really trying to engage faculty to use the LMS more to increase awareness of their courses will also help with the retention and interaction of the students in the course. So there's a lot of things you can do in that area.
Thank you. It looks like we might have enough time for a couple more questions. I have this one that came in. Could you speak more to the credit hours in course assignments? And what about a technology course that requires a lot of lab courses?
Yeah, technology courses are always tough because that work just takes a lot. You know, I think it depends on the university. You know, I think as a group, you all have to discuss, you know, what should a credit hour look like. You know, the university that I worked at, we didn't have necessarily a standard policy, but we kind of talked it out. You know, in the College of Business, a credit hour looked anything from 3 to 5 hours of work. So maybe that was, you know, lecture content. If we did a 3-hour course, lecture content might take up 2 hours of that. Interaction and engagement or learning activities might be 2 to 3 hours. And then research and assignment, construction and assessment might be 3 to 4 hours of that 3-hour course. So generally 3 to 4 hours of contact time per credit hour, meaning they were actively engaged in some way or another with that course for every credit hour. So finding what that standard looks like for your university, so having those discussions with your faculty is absolutely critical.
Thank you. And I think we might have enough time for one more question here. What tools can I use to make sure I am reaching all learning types in an online and hybrid environment?
So absolutely, I think you have to use your announcement tool because there are things that you just have to get out, on the fly. I think that's an essential tool. Definitely creating learning modules. Students need direction in a course. I am a big believer in creating a task list for each module so that students can just check things off as they go. So they know from the start of the week to the end what's expected of them. I'm a firm believer in using the assignments and the assessment features in the courses because you want to have some type of tracking system. The old days of collecting assignments just is not a viable option anymore. Just to protect yourself as a professor or faculty member, you want to be able to have time and date stamps on delivery of items. Also, too, with all the great tools such as plagiarism detection tools like SafeAssign, you're just saving yourself so much time on the back end, whether you're adding rubrics or using inline grading. It just increases the functionality and effectiveness, or gives you so much time back in your day to use these tools. But again, we have to be able to teach those things and get them in the hands of our faculty so they understand how to use those tools. It always blows my mind when I'll go work with a client and I'll find out that they're accepting the assignments online, but then they download the assignment, make comments, save it as a new file name, and then upload those comments back to the students. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like 10 different steps. I'm like, you can just make comments in the inline grading feature and then check on the embedded rubric, and that whole process would take you like 10 minutes versus the 30 minutes you're spending now. But it's like with just a little bit of training and development, he would have saved himself hours over the last couple of years. So again, using those fundamental tools to really engage with the learners, and also just helping yourself as an instructor.
I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question. We had a great number of questions from everyone today, so thank you for that. There's a question about Blackboard's integration or partnerships. Do you have partnerships or integrations with simulation companies to develop more effective lab courses online, or even game-based companies?
Yeah, so we have a lot of third-party providers. If you look on our website, we have a list of our partners. We have a lot of publishers that we partner with that have a lot of the gamification and the simulations as components of the curriculum. So yeah, you can visit our website and it'll list out our third-party solution providers.
Great. Thank you so much, Angela. I see that our time is just about up, and so I'm going to wrap things up here. If you submitted a question that we didn't get to in the Q&A portion, someone from Blackboard will follow up with you directly. And if you have any other thoughts or questions about anything you heard today, I would encourage you to reach out to Blackboard using the contact information that is on the final slide. I'd like to thank our speaker today, Angela Robbins, for a very informative presentation. And I'd like to thank all of the audience members for joining us as well. Hopefully you gained some useful insights that will help you further leverage technology in your learning environment. As a reminder, you will get an email within the next few days that contains a link to this recording along with the slides. And if you haven't already done so, please also take a minute to download the additional resources that Blackboard has provided in the left side of your screen. Thanks again for participating, everyone, and have a great day.